Yifu Liu of JJ Lake is going to introduce our final startup presenter. Yifu, take it away.
Hey, Nick, thanks. Hey, everyone, my name is Yifu, and I'm with JJ Lake Business Center. We are an innovation space located in both Mountain View, Silicon Valley, and also Cambridge, Boston. And we're focusing on helping startups who are aiming at the Asia, specifically China market. I met Robert at an investor event at our venue. By then, he was representing 500 startups, and then I learned more about his this energy startup. And we all know that, like the previous presenter said, the EV market is booming, and any breakthrough in battery can be disruptive. Well, Rob's solution not only increase the energy density, but also make good use of the waste. That's why I'm recommending him to participate in this event. Well, it seems Rob is all set to go, and I wish him good luck tonight.
Take your time. Yeah, take your time. Welcome, everyone. I am the last thing at the end of the day, so I hope I'm entertaining enough to keep you all awake and entertained. I'd like to introduce you to the idea about batteries. So batteries, they've been spending billions and billions of dollars over the last 10 years to try to introduce the next generation battery. Company after company has invested substantially. Some of them have succeeded and many have failed. But if you look at your watch today, or especially your car, you're not going to find any of these new batteries in there yet. So why? ionobell is really here to address that problem. It's not that they're not new batteries. It's not that they're not interesting. It's that they haven't actually been able to come to the market. So we're creating the next generation batteries without all that next generation cost and overhead. See, the market itself is huge. Billions of batteries populate our lives. And this was actually made by several panels earlier today. Your watch, your phone, your laptop, your cars, the power grid itself, they all use the same basic chemistry, oftentimes referred to as LIB, or lithium ion battery. The same battery, therefore, it's a $50 billion market, and it's rapidly growing to $150 billion. It literally is the keystone technology for the future of electrification. But all the batteries that are in your watch, if you pick up even your latest iPhone, are still based on the same chemistry. So even a 20% improvement to that chemistry is worth billions. Just take a simple example of Volkswagen, who recently announced that they're going to completely convert to electrical. For them, they're talking about a 20% improvement in the battery. Just a 20% improvement, that's $1,000 to $2,000 a car. At 11 million vehicles a year, that's $22 billion of profit. That's just Volkswagen. There are over 70 million cars produced a year. That's not including a power grid, and that's not including laptops, phones, watches, and everything else. So you can imagine, with that much money from even just a 20% improvement, of course, billions of dollars get spent. Of course, everybody wants an improvement. So the question is, with every major company, with all these really smart companies, why hasn't it moved forward? And the problem comes down to this. Almost all the battery chemistries are based and have moved about as far as they can get. LG and Samsung are tremendously good at what they do. Panasonic, CATL, they're very good. They haven't been able to advance it because the chemistry has hit a wall. Most of their advances have been in efficiency. They've built massive supply chains, tremendous efficiency, driven down the cost. As was mentioned earlier on the panels, $200–300 a kilowatt is now 120. In China, that's 100 even. So they've gotten very good, and they've built enormous infrastructure to drive down that cost. And they're very good at this. And that has achieved their result. So for them, a major new chemistry is so expensive and so against their basic infrastructure that it doesn't make sense. They actually make more money by improving their basic chemistry. It's simply math. It's return on investment. New companies, QuantumScape, Neivert, Neivert, they don't have this infrastructure. So for them, starting over, they need that 20 to 50% improvement. They're focused on improving the battery itself, not getting efficiencies. But the problem with these big, massive changes that they're trying to do is they've got no scale. They're starting over. We've talked about this earlier today. They've got completely new materials. So they have to start that process over. They have to buy new equipment. It's most of the time a fab process. Excuse me, it's not actually quotes. It's a fab process. That's incredibly expensive. Can you imagine building the batteries for a car in a fab? Right now, there are billion-dollar investments by several of the newer battery companies that produce enough batteries in 24 hours to do less than 1 Tesla. It's $1 billion, and it produces 1 car a day of batteries. This doesn't scale because it's completely new. Maybe in 10 years that'll be there, but solid state, many of these, they're so expensive, $10 billion. In fact, if you think about it, how much do you think it would cost to build the battery supply chain? It's actually $300 billion. Now, most of these companies don't need to build the whole chain, but many of them are building half of it. You're talking about $80 to $100 billion of total investment to accomplish it. It's not that they haven't done a great job, they have. But the methodology they're pursuing is enormously expensive and time consuming because they're literally rebuilding the entire supply chain. The thing is, there's another way. And that's what ionobell is all about. I've been in this business a long time, so I'm not trying to build the greatest battery. I'm trying to build a battery that works with the existing infrastructure. I want to exploit all the scales that every company has already built, the infrastructure and the supply chains, and still get that 20% improvement. So we started off with the idea of fitting within the supply chain. And we started off by building a very low cost, easily available material that worked with the existing production systems, that worked in the existing processes. Today, LG could license this and flip on production without changing a single piece of equipment. That means their supply chain stays. And that means if you're an automaker like Volkswagen and you want to buy a battery from, say, Northvolt, there's no changes for you. You don't have to qualify new vendors. You don't have to create all new equipment. There's no new big supply chain. It's the same thing. It's a small incremental change, but you still get the enormous performance improvement. Now, this only works because we actually license our process to the existing players. We license to the battery companies, we license to the automotive companies, anyone who needs the license down the chain. This allows all the players to join us, and it works much faster. Most of our competitors have existed for 10, 12, 15 years before they got to a simple sample. Today, QuantumScape will show you a playing card. That's great. It's an enormous advance for them to get to that level. It's a playing card, that's a battery. That's as far as they've gotten in 10 years. That's great. It's fantastic technology, but it's got another 10 years before that scales. 10 years, we did all that work, that level, we did that in less than 2 because we're using existing technologies. They spend hundreds of millions of dollars because they're fabs. They need new equipment. They have to completely define a new process. We don't need any of that. We literally work on the equipment. There is no equipment in our lab that doesn't have a manufacturing equivalent already in existence, already on a production line, or we don't buy the equipment for the lab. That's the rule. That's why it costs us $1 million, because the equipment's readily available. We can buy dozens of pieces of equipment from China and have it here in 2 weeks because they already exist and they're cheap. Because that's the equipment LG and Samsung and everyone else have already been using. And instead of billions of dollars to scale, we don't need any of that because, well, it already exists. Northvolt has a very nice plant. The one Volkswagen building, great. They can build our battery too. The only difference is it's 20% better. And therefore, there is no scaling at all involved with our solution. It's a licensing model. All that exists already is scaled. The basic concept we get at is that we're not trying to replace the supply chain. We're not trying to be greedy and take the entire money from the supply chain. We're literally collaborating with all the players. And it has a huge second upside, the performance. You see, we can use the best electrolytes in the world, the best cathodes in the world, the best binders. We can use the technologies from LG and Samsung and everything else that they've used to squeak out that last 5%. It all still works with our battery. So we literally can buy off-the-shelf parts, mixing it with our new technology, which is the silicon, and all of a sudden it works better and it scales. And that means a way lower price point on dollars per kilowatt. We're targeting $67 a kilowatt. Well, there's no way any startup could achieve that scale. That's ridiculous. But wait, Northvolt, LG, Samsung, they already have it. So we can move to scale without capital, which means our dollar per kilowatt, we don't have to cover all of that cost. It's simply a licensing model. which drops out all these years and all this cost that has to get recovered whenever someone sells a battery. Well, we don't have to recover it because we never spent it. And that's what a lot of our clients are already seeing. In our first year, we've already got 4 automotive clients under NDA that we started collaborations with. We've got 2 more that are waiting for samples. We're literally backlogged trying to create samples. We've got 3 major electronics companies and several others waiting for samples as well. And we've got 2 major battery producers who have already started the collaboration with us. We have dozens of other partners throughout the supply chain. Because we're willing to share the profits down the chain, the players are all willing to play. And that means we have enormous support. We could never have built an electrolyte as good as Solvay did, but they did it in a few weeks because this is what they do. And what it guarantees them is profit in the future. So because we're willing to share the profits, our development times are massively faster, and the automotive company sees a full-scaled production based on the suppliers they already know. So our team is very specifically tuned for this. I've been at this for 8 years as an investor. I've been in mobility. I've done 200 investments. This is my 8th. I've been through 8 companies. I've exited them. I've done this whole game before. My partner, my co-founding partner, he owns 20 patents, 14 publications. He did this exact thing, building this battery already. This is his 3rd run at building a scaling licensing technology. So he's been at it a while, and he certainly did this for HP as well. We then have a whole team underneath us and around us that help us achieve this, including some of the best lawyers and IP people you can pay. So I'm not going to bore you with lots of details. You can certainly come talk to me. Conceptually, ionobell is building the next generation battery without all the next generation costs. Because we're willing to share, we're willing to collaborate, all the players come together, can way outflank any single startup, even if they have $1 billion SPAC behind them. Thank you. Nick, you're muted, Nick.
Thanks a lot, Rob. Really appreciate it. I appreciate the energy and the enthusiasm. We definitely need it after the day. But thank you. That was wonderful. All right. I'd love to squeeze in a few questions if there are any out there. I'll stop talking and leave it open. Going once.
Wow, it's the end of the day.
How do they get their 20%? That's Rich's question. I think you need another hour to talk about that, and probably an NDA, I'm guessing.
Yeah, hello. Can you guys hear me? Hi,
Yes.
My name is Yi. I'm with Volvo Cars Ventures. So very interesting presentation. And, Robert, I know, probably as Nick mentioned, you need an NDA to go deep into technical side.
Sensitive. I'll offer you an interesting statement, though. I will offer you one piece to understand it. You can see our patents. Let me offer it this way. We filed our patents. Most patents take about 2 years. Our patents were granted in 5 weeks. That's how fast and how clear our patents were. They're public information. You can view them. I will tell you, it turns out silicon does not act the same at a nanoparticle level as it does at a macro level. Turns out it has completely different properties.
Got it. So you are, basically you would like to license your patents with those battery manufacturers? Is that the business model there?
What we actually do is we collaborate with them. We call them up. We talk about what equipment they have. We build the exact spec for their production system. The whole idea is that they change no equipment. We'll actually walk in, we'll collaborate with them. We actually custom build the formula to fit their production equipment. Not all equipment is the same. Not all have the same capability. So we'll actually fit the material to the equipment they have.
Understood. And what's the royalty range are you targeting?
I'm sorry, give me that one more time. The what?
What is the patent licensing royalty range you are targeting?
That I won't talk publicly about. But certainly, we certainly have several conversations about that. And a lot of it has to do with things like how much upfront versus how much they long play it and the volumes. But I will only point out that we do use the standard licensing model in the industry, which is a revenue-based licensing system.
Great, thank you very much.
Of course.
Right, anyone else have a question? A couple more minutes.
Okay. I got done ahead of time. I guess that's a positive.
You did. Well, we will, the other room is just wrapping up as well, so we'll leave it at that. Rob's info is at the bottom of the screen. If you want to follow up with him, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer any of your questions and continue the conversation there. But Rob, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks very much.